I fill my recycle box with plastic every week. In fact, I fill 3 of them. Wasn't recycling supposed to save us from all of this? In my hometown of Toronto, we have a citywide recycling program that handles our paper, glass, metal, plastic, and kitchen waste. So what exactly are we throwing away? Well, it turns out the majority of recycling in North America only consists of number 1 and number 2 plastics. And of those, it's less than 40% that get recycled. The rest go to landfill, where it sits with food scraps and newspapers for centuries. Nothing can degrade in a landfill because it's hermetically sealed. Without oxygen and the right microorganisms, nothing will go away. The first problem is plastic's lightweight, but doesn't compress. So it takes up a lot of space both in the recycle bin and on the trucks. Then there's the issue of mixed plastics. Because manufacturers and recyclers don't go bowling together, recyclers can never predict the types of products they're likely to receive.
You'll see a high-density polyethylene container with a polypropylene top, or with an aluminum cap with a steel ring on it, and that really poses a challenge from a recycling standpoint. You haven't got now one product that you can send off to be turned into a new product. It's one product that's got 6 different types of plastics and a couple different types of new metals on it. Throw it on your blue box, but we'll see it, and all of a sudden we get calls from our end users of bales that we send off saying, what is this product? And now, we're forced to go back and tell residents we can't accept it. That creates a whole problem with the manufacturers saying, hey, you know what? It's got most of this product that's recyclable. It's not 100%, but you should take it. Here's one that's got a polypropylene washer on it. You can see some of these little caps that are attached to it. You see little containers like this that have different little snouts and caps that are a completely different type of plastic. So, there still is that disconnect, and I think, we need to really address that.
So who's doing it right? With a plastic bottle recycling rate of over 90%, Denmark seemed like a good place to start.
Step 1, you put the bottle in the machine.
The obvious incentive for the Danes is deposit return. By placing a value on these products, they ensure there is very little visible plastic pollution. The bottles end up in state-run recycling depots where they are sorted and returned to the manufacturer, like Carlsberg and Coke. Coke even cleans their plastic bottles so they can be reused up to 20 times. And while the system is efficient, it is only certain bottles. The remainder of Danish plastic waste goes to this guy, who grinds it up for flower pots and other functional plastic items. So far, cities are failing miserably at recycling. Somewhere in the process of collection, sorting, and reprocessing, city recyclers are powerless to keep up with the flood of plastic designs. With glass, we only have green, clear, and brown. With plastic, it's limitless. Even the Danes admit that more and more one-way plastic bottles are hitting the market, with other used plastics mainly going to incinerators. In Houston, Texas, I found Henry Sullivan. When the city decided to stop its recycling program, Henry picked up the slack. His company, Tytech, takes any and all waste plastic, melts it down, and forms it into one single product, railroad ties, which he then sells to railroad companies around the world.
There are more than 15 million railroad ties a year installed every single year in North America.
In addition to accepting industrial waste plastic like pallets, medicinal bottles, tires, and police tape, his neighbors also came calling.
One of my neighbors read about what we do came to the house and said, I used to recycle and I really believe in it, but I stopped doing it because no one cared. Can you use plastic? And I said, yeah.
They're supposed to last longer than wood, are impervious to termites, and can be recycled again and again. Best of all, every railroad tie in the world is the same size. That means just one mold.
The true social cost of this stuff going in the waste site is borne by the taxpayers and the public. It's not a neat budget line item in the federal budget, but it's a big social cost. If we told people that we were going to plant 20,000 trees next year and take hundreds of millions of plastic bottles and plastic bags out of the environment and consume 750,000 tires, that would be a very nice environmental story. We're going to do that not because we're environmental good guys. That's actually the best source of raw materials for what we do.
Another business using a ton of plastic is agriculture, and driving through farm country, it wasn't hard to see. In Oregon, mountains of twine from hay bales, flower trays, and an assortment of plastic sheeting are all being diverted to Alan Youngsma of Agriplas. He processes 18 million tons of plastic a year, about 15% of the state's waste. The twine is ground up and packed into cubes that will later be turned into bumpers and truck liners. Flower trays are chewed up into flakes and shipped to manufacturers to be turned into more flower trays and pots.
As long as those pots can be recycled or get here to our facility, that circle can go around and around and around for a long time.
I always thought that recycling meant that an item was supposed to be used again and again, without changing form. But is using a percentage of recycled material in my flower pot really recycling? Or melting down a whole bunch of plastic into just one product? Is turning bottles into plastic sheeting and packaging really recycling? Or is it downcycling, turning one product into an inferior product? Downcycling doesn't stop new plastic items from being made. My head was starting to hurt. Felt like I'd hit a wall. I needed to recycle some beer. There was one company I knew for sure was taking recycling seriously. For years, Patagonia has made their popular fleece jackets out of recycled bottles. That didn't sound like downcycling. It also sounded like a perfect excuse to go back to California. I learned that this high-end sportswear company, known for its environmental mandate, have moved far beyond the mere plastic bottle.
Here we have a 100% recycled plastic jacket. And the feed that goes into here is about 2% bottles and about 98% random plastics, like old office chairs and shower curtains and things that you would never imagine could be recycled.
That means Patagonia will take back any old items and recycle them into new clothing. This closed-loop system seems like a true model for recycling, if only they could find a way to get people to give back their warm and cozy jackets. One company that has no problem reclaiming its product is Georgia-based Interface Carpet. If you've ever been in an office or an airport, chances are good that you've walked on their product. But most people aren't aware of just how much plastic there is in our flooring.
There are so much virgin and petroleum-based materials that go into a carpet. For instance, just our carpet product has 5 different polymers.
The hardest plastic to deal with has traditionally been the vinyl backing. As a result, carpets represent a huge portion of landfill waste. Now Interface has a technology called Cool Blue. It recycles any and all plastic components into new carpets. The whole system runs on methane from the local landfill. Interface believes this makes good business sense.
Absolutely. We feel the landfills are going to be the oil wells of the future. We'll be mining them to get our plastics to feed Cool Blue and other technologies like Cool Blue.